The ceremonial drums were still echoing when it hit him. One moment, Alpha King Drake stood beneath the moonlit banners, the weight of a kingdom settling onto his shoulders. The next, something slammed through his ribcage, raw, ancient, merciless. His breath vanished. His spine locked. His wolf rose with a snarl so primal it drowned out the cheering crowd. Down. The command wasn't a thought. It was a force. Before we dive into this story, please subscribe and tell us the country you're watching from. I believe this video will make you know that your time shall surely come no matter what. Before Drake understood what was happening, his body was already moving. Fists clenched, pulse thundering, every nerve pulled toward the rear of the ceremony hall. Council members tried to stop him, grabbing at his cloak, calling his name, reminding him of tradition. But the instinct ripped him free like they were made of air. He didn't choose his path. His wolf carved it for him. Through deserted corridors, past sealed archways no one had touched in centuries, down crumbling steps where torchlight died and cold stone breathed secrets. The deeper he descended, the louder the instinct grew, until it felt like claws scraping the inside of his chest. At the final landing, he faced a stone door carved with symbols older than the kingdom. No king had crossed it. And yet it responded to his touch. Runes flared, chains slithered apart, and the door groaned open. A rush of damp, forgotten air hit him. Inside, a girl, thin, dust-streaked, curled against the wall as if trying to disappear into it. Chains coiled around her wrists, glowing faintly with enchantments. Her clothes were torn, her skin marked with binding sigils, her breathing shallow. And then she opened her eyes. Violet, unnatural, glowing despite the darkness. Pain lived in those eyes. Pain and something far more dangerous. His wolf lunged forward inside him. Mate. The word didn't echo. It detonated. Drake staggered toward her, every instinct screaming to reach her, to protect her. But she flinched, shrinking back as the chains rattled. Please, her voice cracked like a dry leaf. Don't let them take me again. Them. Someone had done this. Someone inside his palace. Someone close enough to hide a girl under the ceremony hall for years. Before Drake could speak, her body jerked. Her pulse faltered. No, his voice came out a growl, not a word. Her head dropped. Her heartbeat stilled. And something inside Drake, inside his wolf, tore free in a violent, primal refusal. A storm was rising in him. One that wouldn't let her die. One that wouldn't let this secret stay buried. And that storm was only the beginning. For a heartbeat, Drake could only stare at the unmoving girl in his arms. Her skin cold, her breath stolen away by years of darkness. His wolf paced violently inside him, snapping at the chains still wrapped around her wrists and ankles. Break them. Now. Drake shifted her gently onto the stone floor and seized the first shackle. The metal was carved with old runes, symbols he had seen only in forbidden texts, the kind scribes whispered about but never dared draw. The moment he touched it, the chain came alive. It burned him. A white-hot lash of pain tore across his palm. Smoke spiraled upward. The scent of scorched flesh choked the air. Drake hissed through his teeth, but didn't let go. You think pain will stop me? His voice was raw, nearly feral. You kept her trapped here, alive or dead, for how long? I will not leave her bound. The chain writhed in his grip like a living thing, trying to force him back. Blood dripped down his wrist. His entire arm shook. Then, the rune split. A shock wave burst across the chamber, rattling the torches along the walls. Lyra's body flickered. For a moment, her form blurred, moonlight pouring from her skin, shadows rippling beneath it like a living storm. Drake froze, breath caught, watching as the glow dimmed again. Not dead, not gone, changing. Fueled by a rush of determination, he tore at the next shackle. It struck him with a pulse of dark magic so violent it nearly knocked him backward. But his wolf lunged, forcing strength through his limbs, its growl rumbling through his bones. Break it. Break all of them. One after another, the chains shattered. Every rune burned him, carving angry welts up his arms and across his chest. The magic punished him for touching her, for freeing what others had caged. When the final shackle split, the entire chamber seemed to exhale. The flames along the walls dimmed. The runes on the floor went dark, and Lyra collapsed fully into his arms, weight light, breath thready, but there, alive. Her eyelids fluttered, and for a split second, he saw flashes, images that weren't his. 6-year-old hands reaching for sunlight. A woman's scream, cut off by a spell. Needles of moon gold piercing her veins. Whispers around her bed. She must never wake. Her blood will end us. Better she sleeps forever. Knees curled to her chest in endless blackness. Her voice too small. Her hope too loud. Am I cursed? Yes, they answered. Your existence is a sin. Drake sucked in a breath as the visions ended. His heart hammered, not from fear, but from rage so sharp it made his vision swim. They didn't just hide her. They tortured her. He lifted her, holding her close, and pushed out of the hidden chamber. His footsteps thundered through the silent corridors as he climbed upward, ignoring every protocol, every rule, every consequence. The council was going to answer for this. As he reached the upper halls, guards stared, eyes wide, but none dared block his path. The sight of the burns across his arms and the faint, pulsing light around the unconscious girl kept them frozen. He didn't stop until he reached his private chambers, barring the door behind him with a snarl. Within minutes, 2 royal healers arrived, panting and frightened. Your Majesty, we were told you found. They stepped closer. The moment their magic touched the air around Lyra, both healers screamed. A surge of energy burst outward, violent, radiant. One healer was thrown against the wall. The other dropped to his knees, clutching his chest as if his lungs had collapsed. Get out, Drake snapped. But, Your Majesty, we can't heal her. I set out. They scrambled away, slamming the door behind them. Silence settled. Drake knelt beside her on his bed, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. What did they do to you? He whispered. His wolf edged forward in his mind, protective, restless, sensing her fading strength. It pushed him, guided him, to place his palm over her heart. The moment he touched her, her body arched. Light burst beneath his hand. Shadows rose like smoke. But instead of harming him, the energy curled around him, recognizing him, accepting him. Her heartbeat steadied. Her breathing eased. Drake exhaled shakily, forehead dropping to hers. I'm here, he murmured. I won't let you go. A soft, trembling sound escaped her lips. Where am I? Her voice was so fragile, he almost thought he imagined it. You're safe, he said. You're not in the dark anymore. Her lashes fluttered. Her violet eyes opened, dull, weak, but aware. She struggled to swallow. How long was I? Too long, Drake whispered. Tell me your name. A shiver ran through her. Lyra. The name felt like a spell settling into place. Lyra. He touched her cheek gently. Lyra, what are you? She blinked slowly, pain tightening her expression as if the answer itself hurt her. They kept me hidden, she breathed. Said the kingdom must not know. Said my blood would break everything they built. Her fingers twitched, struggling to reach him. He took her hand. Lyra, tell me. She took a shattered breath. I'm a Moonshadow hybrid. Drake's blood chilled. Moonshadow. A bloodline eradicated centuries ago. A race born with abilities too unpredictable, too powerful. Light and darkness made flesh. The council had declared them extinct. So how was she here? Unless they hid her to keep their power untouched. The realization slammed into him. The council didn't just lie to the kingdom. They lied to him. They hid an entire living lineage beneath his feet to preserve their control. His jaw clenched until it hurt. They'll pay for this. Lyra's eyes softened with fear. Don't fight them. They always win. He leaned closer, voice low, fierce. Not anymore. Not with me as king. She tried to shake her head, but exhaustion dragged her down. They'll cage me again. His wolf surged, violent and possessive. Never. Never again. Drake cradled her cheek and lowered his forehead to hers. Listen to me, Lyra. No one will cage you again. Not while I breathe. Her lips parted as if she wanted to believe him, as if no one had ever spoken for her before. Then, her eyes shifted, not just glowing, changing. One iris turned silver, bright as a full moon. The other blackened, deep as a starless night. Drake inhaled sharply. Her evolution had begun, and nothing in the kingdom would ever be the same. The palace did not sleep that night. Whispers slithered through corridors like cold wind, guards speaking in rushed breaths, scribes trembling as rumors leaked from chamber to chamber. The king carried a girl from the forbidden floors. She radiated moonlight and shadow. She woke. By dawn, the High Council had already moved to act. Drake felt at the moment he stepped out of his private chambers, a wall of hostility masked beneath political courtesy. The council stood waiting in the Hall of Ancients, cloaked in ceremonial silver. And they were not alone. Behind them, a chained dais stood ready, a platform used only for public verdicts. A trial. They meant to try her. Drake's wolf bristled violently, fur rising under his skin. You dare? Elder Melis, the oldest and most poisonous of them, lifted a hand. Your Majesty, by coronation law, any unknown magic discovered within the palace must undergo evaluation. Even creatures found in forbidden levels. Creature. Drake's voice cracked like thunder. Say that word again, and you'll be the one standing trial. But they had cornered him with tradition. Ceremonial law bound a newly crowned king from intervening in magical evaluations until after the verdict. The law was ancient, meant to limit tyrant kings. But now it was being twisted to keep him powerless. Melis gave a small, victorious smile. By law, you must attend, and you may not interfere. Two guards stepped forward, offering him ceremonial chains, thin silver cuffs that glowed faintly. Symbols of a king's temporary restraint. A mockery. Drake stared at them, jaw clenched so hard it hurt. You expect me to wear these? Melis bowed. If you refuse, the throne sees it as abdication. His wolf snarled, clawing for control. But Lyra needed him, not banished, not dethroned. With a slow, lethal breath, Drake extended his hands. The cuffs snapped around his wrists. Powerless. By law. For now. The trial. The ceremony arena filled beyond capacity, thousands crowding the marble stands, murmuring with excitement, fear, and morbid curiosity. Drake stood at the center platform, bound in ceremonial chains that glowed faintly with moonfire. Guards surrounded him, not to protect him, but to ensure he followed the law. A horn sounded. Two enforcers dragged Lyra into view. A soft gasp rippled through the stadium. She was weak, barefoot, and pale, her limbs trembling from exhaustion. But her chin was raised. Her eyes, mismatched and luminous, scanned the crowd without fear. A girl nearly broken, but never bowed. Drake's heart twisted painfully. His wolf slammed against the chains, desperate to reach her. Lyra's gaze met his across the arena. Her lips parted. A flicker of moonlight shimmered around her, as if her soul recognized his presence and rested for the first time. But Melis stepped forward, voice booming magically across the arena. People of Linaris Dominion, behold the creature found in the forbidden levels. A monster whose existence was kept secret by treacherous bloodlines. The crowd murmured. Lyra didn't flinch. She bewitched the king, dragging him away from his coronation. She did no such thing. Drake roared, and corrupts the air with forbidden magic. Drake lunged, But the ceremonial chains tightened, burning his wrists and forcing him back to his place. Lyra took a wavering breath. I bewitched no one. Melis ignored her. We will judge her with the moon relic, as tradition commands. At his signal, a priest lifted a massive stone disc, smooth, pale, etched with ancient runes. The moon relic glowed faintly in the sunlight. It had only two outcomes: white light, innocence; red light, execution. The priest approached Lyra slowly, reverently. Drake fought the chains, chest heaving. His wolf howled madly in his mind. Don't touch her. Don't you dare touch her. But he was helpless. The relic was pressed against her heart. The arena held its breath. The relic pulsed once, and then exploded. A shock wave of moonlight burst outward, blasting the priest backward. Runes shattered into fragments that whirled through the air like burning snowflakes. Shadows erupted from Lyra's skin. Moonlight poured from her chest. The fragments spiraled around her, merging, forming a glowing symbol in the air above her sternum. A sigil, a crest, a radiant circle made of moonlight and shadow threads intertwined, like an eclipse frozen mid-birth. Gasps thundered across the arena. The eclipse crest. Impossible. The prophecy. Even Drake stared, breath stolen from his lungs. His wolf went still, eyes wide, reverent. Lyra stood in the center of the maelstrom, moonlight cascading down her hair, shadow fire dancing at her feet. She wasn't afraid. She was awakening. The crest pulsed. Drake felt the pull of it. Heat searing through his chest, as if invisible threads snapped taut between them. The bond roared to life, undeniable and violent. A halo of energy connected them, silver and black streaks wrapping around his wrists, climbing up his arms, pierced through the ceremonial chains. The entire stadium saw it. Saw them. Mate. Prophecy. Truth. Melis stumbled back, face draining of color. This is a trick. Drake tore free of the ceremonial chains as if they were cobwebs. Sparks flew across the platform. Guards stumbled backward as he stepped toward Lyra through the falling relic dust. Her knees buckled. She collapsed, straight into his arms. He held her tightly, protectively, his chest heaving. Her mismatched eyes flickered weakly, one silver, one shadow dark. The eclipse crest glowed faintly against her skin. Drake raised his head, meeting the council's horrified stares. Enough, he growled, voice booming with authority and wolf power. Your lies end today. The crowd fell silent. She is not a monster. She is not a curse. He turned slightly, shielding Lyra in his arms. She is our prophecy, the one you've tried to erase. A murmur rose, fear, awe, hope intertwining. Lyra's fingers curled weakly against his chest. Drake's voice rang like a war horn across the arena. And I swear before the entire kingdom, anyone who touches her again touches me. The bond between them flared in confirmation, moonlit threads tightening around their hearts, glowing for all to see. The kingdom had witnessed the truth, and nothing the council did next could hide it again. Lyra woke as if rising through water, slow, shimmering, reborn. Her lungs drew in a breath that wasn't just air. Shadows swirled with it, curling like dark silk around her ribs before dissolving into her skin. Her pulse throbbed with a rhythm she didn't remember learning, half moon, half storm. Drake watched her sit up on the velvet couch he had dragged close to the balcony, eyes fixed on the new shape of her aura. Her eyes were different, brighter, deeper, streaked with silver that shouldn't exist in any mortal or wolf. Her hair fell in ink-black waves laced with thin, glimmering strands like threads of night. Even her skin seemed to glow softly, as if moonlight refused to leave her. Lyra, Drake whispered. You look wrong, she asked softly. Powerful. A faint, shaky smile touched her lips, but it vanished as quickly as it formed. She pressed a hand to her chest. There are heartbeats. Drake stiffened. There's no one else in this wing. No, not here. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Below. Trapped. Scared. He hoped she meant echoes of her own trauma, but the way her pupils narrowed told him it was more than memory. Show me, Drake said, grabbing his cloak. Lyra didn't walk so much as glide. Moonlight pooled at her feet, following her like a loyal hound. Shadows bent in her wake, gently, almost protectively. She wasn't fully human anymore. She wasn't fully wolf. She was something the council had no right to touch, and Drake felt a fierce, rising pride he didn't know how to handle. They descended back into the underground corridors, passing Lyra's old chamber. Drake slowed, but she didn't even glance at the door. Her attention was pulled deeper, far past the torture rooms, far past the place he had found her. The air grew colder, older. The stone felt different under their feet, rough, ancient, as if built long before any king existed. There, Lyra whispered, stopping in front of a wall that looked solid. Drake frowned. There's nothing. But before the sentence finished, the torches lining the corridor flared with white-blue fire, reacting to her presence. Stone cracked vertically, then horizontally, groaning open like the mouth of some ancient beast. And behind it, 23 children stared back at them. Thin, sick, bruised, eyes glowing with mixed species blood, wolf, witch, fae. All chained by wrists, ankles, or necks to cold metal slabs. Lyra inhaled sharply, knees buckling for a split second before Drake steadied her. They're hybrids, she whispered. Like me. Drake felt cold crawl up his spine. What is this place? A tiny girl with silver blue eyes stepped forward, chains dragging loudly. Are you real? She asked in a cracked, trembling voice. Lyra's own voice broke. Yes. Yes, I'm real. You came back, whispered a boy with pointed fae ears. We thought you died, another said. You were the only one who screamed loud enough. They said your blood was too strong to take. You escaped the council's harvest. You came back for us. Drake felt his stomach twist violently. Harvest. He knew what that meant, but hearing it from children, he wanted to tear the council apart with his bare hands. Lyra stepped forward, and every child shrank back, not in fear, but in awe, as if watching a miracle unfold. She lifted her hand. The shadows pooled at her feet rose like soft tendrils. The moonlight around her swirled into thin silver threads. The chains snapped. One by one, every shackle ruptured without her fingers even brushing metal. The sound was deafening, echoing like thunder through the stone hall. The children didn't run. They didn't scream. They rushed her. Tiny arms. Tiny bodies. Desperate, trembling sobs. They clung to her legs, her waist, her arms, pressing their faces against her as if she were warmth itself. A small boy whispered into her dress. We knew you would come. The moon told us. Lyra froze, overwhelmed. Her throat tightened. She wrapped her arms around all who could fit against her. I didn't know, she whispered. I didn't know any of you were alive. Drake watched her, watched the way she glowed, watched the way the children looked at her like she was salvation. And something inside him broke, and rebuilt, and grew sharper than any blade. This wasn't fate. This was war. A war the council had been waging in the dark, and Lyra had just become the symbol that would destroy them. We have to get them out, Drake said. Lyra nodded. They're weak. Their magic has been drained for years. I can heal some of it. But we need. A sudden rumble shook the walls. Torches flickered violently. The stone door behind them slammed shut. Drake cursed. No, not now. From the far end of the chamber, a new sound began. Metal scraping stone. Heavy, slow, deliberate. Lyra stiffened, pulling the children behind her as if instinct had replaced thought. What is that? Drake's expression darkened. The council's enforcer. A creature stepped forward. Massive, armor fused to its skin, eyes glowing the dead red of controlled magic. Not alive, not fully dead. Created for one purpose: erase evidence. And now it had found 23 pieces of evidence. And the girl who had become hope. Drake moved in front of Lyra. She grabbed his hand, power humming under her skin. The enforcer raised its blade. And the children whimpered behind Lyra. The battle for truth, for their future, had just begun. The enforcer lunged. Not fast, inevitable. Like a falling mountain. Like a decree written long before any of them were born. Drake drew his blade, placing himself between the creature and Lyra as the children huddled behind her. But the enforcer wasn't really aiming at him. Not with the way its dead red eyes locked on Lyra, hungry for a command it had already been given. Lyra of the forbidden bloodline. The creature rasped, voice scraping like metal dragged over bone. By order of the council, a purge has been declared. All hybrids are to be eliminated, starting with you. Lyra's breath stilled. Purge. Drake's jaw clenched so hard his teeth nearly cracked. They planned this. They knew we would find the children. The enforcer swung its blade. Drake met it, steel ringing through the chamber, sparks lighting the shadows like fireflies. The impact drove him to one knee. Lyra moved on instinct. Shadows rippled from her skin like dark wind. Moonlit veins lit under her cheeks, glowing a soft silver through her flesh. For the first time since she awoke reborn, her power didn't feel like something she possessed. It felt like something remembering her. The enforcer dragged Drake back with a single brutal sweep. Lyra didn't think. She stepped forward and raised her hand. The world shifted. The creature froze mid-strike. Not by force. Not by magic. By threads. Thin, glowing strands stretched from every living thing. Pale gold, silver, blue, black, woven into the air itself. And the enforcer's life thread pulsed like a dying ember, frayed and darkened with sins. Lyra touched it. The creature convulsed violently, choking on a scream that had never belonged to it. Drake staggered back, staring. The children gasped. The air trembled. Lyra felt memories crash through her. Every child it had dragged from their beds. Every hybrid it had cut open. Every mother begging. Every father dying. Every command the council forced through its shattered mind. She did not kill him. She rewrote him. She wove his frayed thread tighter, pulled every suppressed emotion to the surface, and shoved the forgotten part of himself, the part that once felt, back into his body with brutal, divine force. When she let go, the enforcer collapsed to its knees. Its glowing eyes flickered, then softened with something that should have been impossible. Guilt. Forgive me. It whispered, trembling. Forgive me, children. Drake stared. Lyra, what did you do? I gave him back everything they stole. The enforcer lifted its face toward them. No longer a weapon, but a man trapped in metal. Take me above. The kingdom must hear. They emerged into the great hall during the council's emergency session. The highest lords and advisors turned in shock as the enforcer, formerly their silent executioner, limped inside with Drake and Lyra at his sides, followed by 23 children with haunted eyes. Seize them, a counselor barked. A purge has been ordered. No, the enforcer thundered. The room fell silent. He stepped into the center, armor cracking with each movement. Every eye watched. Every scribe froze mid-quill. Every guard hesitated. Then, with trembling hands, he removed his helmet. And the kingdom saw his face, broken, scarred, human. I confess, he said, voice shaking the marble floors. The council ordered the harvest. The council ordered the purge. These children were to die so their power could be stolen. Gasps ripped through the chamber like tearing cloth. He continued, louder. And Lyra, this girl they call forbidden, she saved me. She showed me everything we've done. I stand with her. I stand against you. Chaos exploded. Nobles shouted. Guards hesitated. Scribes ran. Civilians outside the hall began to gather as words swept through the palace. The council tried to shout him down, but for the first time, no one listened. Drake stepped forward, voice sharp as steel. By law of royal bloodline, I am assuming temporary control of the kingdom's army until the council is investigated. The guards turned toward him. Every single one. Drake didn't need to raise his voice. Authority radiated from him, cold and unyielding. Escort the council to containment. Any resistance is treason. The crowd surged with outrage. riots blooming like wildfire in the streets outside. The kingdom was unraveling under the truth. And at the center of it all stood Lyra. Her pulse hammered. Magic twisted under her skin. Her transformation advanced, veins glowing bright silver and deep black, moon and shadow, predator and prophet. Her eyes shifted between two colors, one pale gold, one midnight violet. She wasn't done changing. She wasn't done becoming. Drake moved to her side, voice low. Lyra, are you all right? She didn't answer, because she felt it. A presence. Not in the room. Not outside. Not beneath the stone. In the threads. A shadow among the strands of fate itself. Familiar. Ancient. Watching her with pride and hunger. Lyra's breath hitched. From somewhere the world could not see, a voice brushed her ear in a whisper made of night. My daughter, finally awake. Coronation week should have been a celebration. Instead, the sky split open. The palace trembled as shadows peeled from the walls, alive, snarling, hungry. Wolves formed from smoke and nightmare poured into the halls, their eyes glowing red as dying stars. Civilians screamed. Soldiers scrambled. Chandeliers shattered in showers of crystal. Drake didn't hesitate. He shifted mid-stride, bones cracking, golden fur exploding from his skin as his wolf form hit the ground with a roar that shook the marble pillars. The shadow wolves lunged, but he met them head-on, tearing, slashing, protecting. Lyra felt the attack before it began, threads snapping, twisting, screaming warnings she barely understood. And then she saw it, a tear in the world behind Drake, widening like an open wound. Drake, move, she cried. Too late. A shadow wolf larger than any other seized him by the spine and dragged him backward into the rift. Drake clawed at the floor, gouging the marble, but the void swallowed him whole. No. Lyra lunged forward, shadows and moonlight sparking off her body like dual auras. The rift pulsed, hungry. She didn't think. She didn't fear. She leapt into the darkness after him. She landed in silence. A silence so thick it felt like drowning. The void stretched endlessly, made of shifting black sands and a sky with no stars. Drake lay ahead of her, half-shifted, gasping as tendrils of shadow crawled over his limbs like living chains. Lyra sprinted toward him. But a figure rose from the ground between them. Massive, crowned with horns made of broken moonlight, skin like obsidian dust and eclipse fire. A wolf form made of shadow wrapped around him like a living cape. Void Alpha Kale, her father. The weight of him pressed on her chest, making her bones vibrate. He smiled, not with warmth, but with possession. My daughter. His voice was a low thunder. Finally awake. Lyra froze. You're the voice I've been hearing. I have been watching your threads since the day you were conceived. He circled her like a storm, shadow wolves forming behind him with each step. Your mother was a wolf of light. I am the shadow between worlds. And within you. He stopped, eyes glinting. Is the eclipse core, a tri-blooded heir. There has never been another like you. Lyra felt the truth humming under her skin, the moonlit veins on one side of her pulse glowing while the shadow-black threads on the other side twisted in response. Tri-blooded. Wolf. Shadow. Eclipse. Drake struggled against the void tendrils holding him, voice hoarse. Lyra, don't listen, he's lying. But Kale flicked a finger, and the shadows tightened around Drake's throat. Lyra's scream echoed through the void. Don't touch him. Kale turned back to her calmly. You think I brought you here to hurt him? No. I brought him because he is the chain that keeps you from becoming what you are meant to be. Lyra stepped forward, moonlight sparking under her feet. What am I meant to be? A weapon. His eyes gleamed. A queen who ends worlds. My successor, if I rewrite your fate thread. That is why you were imprisoned. The council feared prophecy. I feared you ripping my reign apart before I could shape you. Her chest tightened. So you hid me. To protect you. He smiled, dark and terrifying. And to protect myself from the destiny written in your birth. Lyra felt the shadows reaching toward her gently, like a father's hand. But then she looked at Drake. He was fading, being consumed by the void. His golden wolf light dimming. Her bond thread to him flickered violently, frantic and alive. Kale's voice softened with false affection. Choose power, daughter. Step into your birthright. Let the void claim the unworthy. If you join me, your mate's death will mean nothing. You will never need anyone again. Lyra's heartbeat became a storm. She felt the void feeding her fear. She felt the moon feeding her hope. She felt Drake feeding her soul. Her power surged violently, uncontrolled, raw. Shadows twisted around her arms, forming claws, while moonlight bled from her spine like celestial wings. A monster and a miracle combined. Kale's eyes widened in hungry approval. Yes, that is what you are. That is what I made. No, Lyra breathed. Her power snapped outward, light and shadow spiraling around her in a cyclone. Kale's expression froze. This is not optional, Lyra. She stepped forward, every word trembling with fury and clarity. I'm not your weapon. He snarled. You belong to me. I belong, she whispered, to myself. The cyclone exploded. Moonlight seared the void. Shadows bent into submission. The fate threads around her braided into a new pattern no prophecy had ever predicted. Lyra moved through the storm like a goddess rising. She reached Drake, ripping the shadow chains from his body in a burst of silver-black power. He collapsed into her arms, gasping, but alive. Behind them, Kale roared, shadows rising into a monstrous storm. You cannot escape your blood, he thundered. And Lyra turned to face him, glowing, trembling, transformed. I don't need to escape it, she said softly. I'll redefine it. She lifted her hand. The void shuddered. The shadows bowed. The moon answered. For the first time in history, light and darkness intertwined. Not as enemies, not as opposites, but as a bridge in her palms. A bridge only she could become. The void cracked. Lyra stood between her father's darkness and the moonlight piercing through the tear she had created, her power forging a path home. She looked back at Drake, her eyes glowing dual colors, one moonlit, one shadow deep. Hold on, she whispered. And with a final burst of eclipse fire, Lyra stepped between two worlds and became their bridge. The moment Lyra tore through the veil between worlds, the kingdom felt it. A pulse, deep, ancient, rolled beneath the ceremony hall stones, shaking dust from the ceilings and ripping banners from the walls. Wolves shifted instinctively, ears flattening as a silver-black wind surged across the palace grounds. And then the sky broke open. Shadow wolves flooded from Kale's collapsing void tear, howling as they clashed with royal wolves in a storm of fangs and fury. The moon above flickered unnaturally, caught between phases, as if unsure which version of the night to obey. Drake stumbled beside Lyra, blood on his jaw, breath ragged. Lyra, we have to move. Kale is coming through. But Lyra didn't move. She rose. Her feet lifted from the broken stones, shadows spiraling around her ankles as moonlight bled from her skin. Her hair lengthened in a cascade of silver streaks threaded with living darkness. Behind her, a massive wolf shade, half moonlit guardian, half void-born titan, unfolded like wings stretched across the entire battlefield. Lennar's convergence. The final stage. Her true evolution. Gasps erupted from both armies. Royal wolves halted mid-attack. Shadow wolves froze mid-snarl. Every creature, of light, of dark, of the in-between, looked up at her and bowed, not to the void alpha, not to the throne, not to fear, but to her. Lyra's dual-colored eyes glowed like twin eclipses as she lifted her hand. No more fighting. The shadow wolves obeyed instantly. The royal wolves hesitated, then followed, instinct bowing to inevitability. Even the trembling moon steadied overhead, pulled into alignment by the power radiating from her. Drake stared at her as if witnessing a miracle unfold in slow motion. Lyra, you're... But a roar cut through him. Kale! He burst from the collapsing void tear, shadows peeling from his body like molten armor. His wolf shade towered behind him, massive as a mountain, eyes burning with obsession and terror. You are mine, Lyra. He lunged, not at her, but at Drake. And Lyra's world snapped. Her wolf shade struck like lightning, intercepting Kale mid-charge. The force shattered pillars and threw both alphas across the hall, the impact echoing like thunder trapped in stone. Lyra landed between them, power blazing. You will not touch him. Kale staggered upright, darkness oozing from the cracks in his skin. He weakens you. He blinds you. You should have been a goddess, yet you choose him? Yes, she whispered. It was not weakness. It was her anchor. Kale charged again, But Lyra didn't counter with force. She entered his mind. Her fingers brushed his temple. The world around them fell away, and she stood inside his memories. Not the monster, the man. A younger Kale knelt beside a dying kingdom, shadows eating the land, desperate to save anyone he could. She saw him love, grieve, lose. She saw the void magic poisoning him, infecting him piece by piece until the man vanished, and the void alpha was all that remained. She saw him cradle baby Lyra with trembling hands, terrified she would inherit his curse. I wanted to protect you, his mind voice cracked. But the void, it consumed the parts of me that could love. Lyra's throat tightened. You became a monster because you were afraid. Yes, a broken truth. And you hurt me because you believed you had no other way. Kale's shadowed form trembled. I don't deserve forgiveness. I know, Lyra whispered. But I'm giving it anyway. Her moonlight entered the cracks in his memories, soothing them, dissolving the void poison thread by thread. She expected resistance. There was none. The monster collapsed first, then the void, then the man. Kale fell to his knees, shadows melting away like snow in spring. I'm sorry, he breathed, his real voice, raw and human. My daughter. I'm so. Moonlight wrapped him gently, and Kale's soul, no longer chained to the void, finally rose, dissolving into soft silver dust. The darkness vanished with him. Silence swept the hall. The shadow wolves bowed deeply, heads touching the ground. The royal wolves shifted back, shaken but alive. The moon above returned to its natural glow, round and full, as if blessing the world anew. Drake reached her slowly, almost reverently. Lyra, you ended the war with mercy. She turned toward him, power still shimmering around her like a second skin. Violence created this war. Mercy was the only thing strong enough to end it. He took her hands, one warm with moonlight, the other cool with shadow. You're not the bridge between worlds anymore. Her brow lifted slightly. Then what am I? Their queen, he said softly. Our unity. In the days that followed, the kingdom transformed. Hybrids were no longer hunted. They were honored. Royal wolves trained alongside shadow wolves. Eclipse-born children walked the palace openly. The ceremony hall, once a place of punishment, became a sanctuary of 3 clans united. The kingdom learned a truth older than every lie. Light and shadow were never enemies. They were always halves of the same moon. And at the center of the reborn empire stood Lyra, Lenara's queen, tri-blooded, bridge, and ruler. The girl once chained beneath the palace had risen higher than any prophecy dared imagine. And beside her, always, stood Drake, her mate, her equal, her chosen. Together, they rewrote the fate of their world. The coronation dais glowed with a soft eclipse sheen, silver and shadow swirling in quiet harmony. Yet Lyra stood at its center with a stillness that belied the storm within her. The kingdom was healing, yes, but peace was never born instantaneously. It had to be carved, earned, protected, and something was already shifting. Drake sensed it first. He moved closer to her, hand brushing her lower back. Lyra, your power is changing again. She exhaled slowly, watching the moon through the shattered roof above. The threads are restless. Something is pulling at them, something outside our borders. Drake's wolf bristled under his skin. Another threat? Not yet, she murmured. But something is waking. Something that felt me in the void. Before Drake could speak, a young hybrid child, one of the rescued 23, ran toward them. Mira, the smallest. The girl with pale green eyes that always seemed to see more than she admitted. Your Majesty, she whispered, tugging Lyra's sleeve. The threads are calling again. They want you to see. Lyra knelt, shadows curling protectively around the child. Show me. Mira touched her wrist. The world shattered in a rush of colorless wind. Lyra's eyes rolled back as the hall dissolved around her, replaced by a celestial map. Threads stretching across continents, weaving through forests, mountains, oceans. 1,000 glowing lines pulsed like heartbeats. One thread, thick, ancient, metallic black, burned hotter than the rest. And it was moving toward her. What is that? Drake's voice echoed through the vision, rough with concern. Lyra touched the thread, and a vision detonated behind her eyes. A colossus standing at the edge of the world. Eyes molten gold, wings made of starlit ash. A creature older than Kale's void, older than moon and shadow. A primordial. The first wolf. The one who birthed the bloodlines. It opened its mouth. Eclipse Queen, the balance has shifted, and I am coming to see what future you have chosen. The vision snapped. Lyra gasped, stumbling into Drake's arms. The hall trembled as if responding to her sudden fear. Drake steadied her, jaw tightening. Lyra, what did you see? She looked up at him, dual-colored eyes burning. The creator of our kind, she whispered. And he's coming here. The kingdom, newly healed, stood unknowingly on the edge of an even greater storm. And Lyra, bridge of worlds, queen of light and shadow, felt the weight of destiny settle onto her shoulders once more. This time, not as a burden, but as a call she would answer, with Drake beside her, and an entire kingdom ready to rise. The moon dimmed without warning. A hush rippled through the great hall as every wolf, royal, shadow, hybrid, lifted their heads in instinctive alarm. Even the children stopped mid-play, eyes wide, ears twitching. Drake's hand moved to Lyra's waist. That's not an eclipse, he muttered. That's a warning. But Lyra was already feeling it, the threads warping, bending, tightening around her as if the entire world were holding its breath. Then the air deepened. Not darkened, deepened. Colors drained. Shadows thickened. A strange gravity pulled at the stones beneath their feet. Wolves whimpered. Guards froze. The hall itself seemed to bow under the pressure of something enormous approaching. A heartbeat, but not theirs. From the ancient pulse rolled through the palace walls, rattling glass and bones alike. From a second pulse followed, slower, older, like the echo of a mountain breathing. Drake growled, shifting partially without meaning to. He's here. No, Lyra whispered, stepping forward as mist curled around her ankles. He's announcing himself before arriving. The mist coalesced into a path, straight through the hall, through the shattered doors, and out toward the palace courtyard, glowing with pale starlight. Lyra lifted her chin. He wants me outside. Absolutely not alone, Drake snapped. Her gaze softened. I wasn't planning to be. They moved as one. The moment Lyra stepped into the courtyard, the world changed. Clouds spiraled overhead like a galaxy being wound into shape. Wind howled without touching her. The earth glowed faintly beneath her feet, reacting to her presence as though recognizing her. Then the sky split. A single tear of white fire opened above the courtyard. Slowly, agonizingly, something stepped through. Not a wolf, not a man, something in between. The primordial. He was enormous, twice the size of any alpha. Skin marked by shifting constellations, eyes blazing with a gold so bright it scarred the air. Behind him, wings of stardust unfurled, spanning the courtyard like a living sky. Every wolf dropped to their knees. Drake strained, trembling, fighting the instinct to bow. Lyra did not bow. The primordial's gaze landed on her like a thunderstrike. Eclipse Queen, he rumbled, voice echoing across the kingdom. Your power has awakened the old laws. I come with a question. Lyra held her ground. Then ask it. Silence fell, a silence deep enough to drown in. Finally, will you save this world or remake it? The question trembled through the threads of fate, and Lyra knew. Whatever answer she gave would determine the future of every wolf, every clan, every kingdom. Drake stepped slightly behind her, ready to fight a god if she asked. Lyra raised her chin, facing the being who created her bloodline, and destiny waited. The courtyard held its breath. Lyra felt every gaze lock onto her, the royal wolves trembling at the edges, the shadow wolves melting into deeper submission, the hybrids clustered near the hall doors with wide, terrified eyes. Even the moon seemed suspended, caught between brightness and shadow, watching her with a soft, waiting glow. The primordial's presence filled the world like a second atmosphere. He wasn't merely powerful. He was power. Creation, ruin, beginning and end braided into one ancient pulse. His golden eyes, older than mountains, older than stars now long dead, fixed on her with the quiet expectation of something inevitable. Speak, he said. I will hear your truth. Lyra inhaled slowly. The silver-black energy that had lived in her veins since Kale's collapse shimmered beneath her skin, responding to the primordial instinctively. Not in fear. In recognition. He was the first wolf. She was the newest evolution. Drake stepped beside her, not in front of her, not shielding her, but aligned with her. Equal. Present. A statement. Lyra lifted her chin. I won't give an answer until I know the cost. The primordial tilted his head slightly, the stardust on his skin shifting like a living constellation. A wise question. Mortals usually kneel instead. I'm not mortal, Lyra said quietly. The shadow of a smile crossed his lips. No, Eclipse Queen. You are not. A murmur rippled through the wolves watching. Some bowed deeper. Others glanced fearfully between the two alphas. Drake's fingers brushed hers briefly, grounding her. Ask him what he wants, he murmured. She nodded. What brings you here? Lyra asked. Why appear now, when the void is destroyed, the war is over, and the world is healing? Aloham rolled through the courtyard, approval. Because peace, the primordial said, is often the most dangerous illusion. Lyra's stomach tightened. Explain. He raised a single hand. The courtyard darkened. Not into shadow. Into memory. The world around them melted into a different landscape. One filled with ruins, molten skies, and wolves turned to stone mid-howl. Ash drifted like snow. Rivers burned with dark fire. Lyra gasped softly. This is, Drake whispered. The world before yours. The primordial finished. My first creation. Lyra stared at the devastation. What happened? Ambition. His voice resonated with old grief. Power without unity. A queen who chose to rule alone. And a king who chose to rule everything. Lyra swallowed. Kale wasn't the first void. No, the primordial said. He was merely the most recent echo. Drake frowned. You think Lyra's power makes her a risk? The primordial did not deny it. He turned slowly, the ruins shifting behind him like a tapestry of history unraveling. The eclipse core you carry, he said, is the only force capable of balancing light and shadow. Together, they form creation. His golden eyes sharpened. Alone, either one becomes destruction. Lyra understood. The world had ended before, because the one who held both halves had chosen only one side. A shiver ran through her. And now, the primordial continued. You stand at the crossroads they once failed. Drake stepped forward, jaw tight. She's not them. No, the primordial agreed. But she is more powerful than all who came before, including me. A collective gasp rose from the watching wolves. Even Lyra blinked. More powerful than you? You carry 3 bloodlines, he said. 3 magics that were never meant to coexist. Light, shadow, eclipse. Where I am the beginning. His expression shifted with something close to reverence. You are the potential end. Lyra felt Drake stiffen beside her. His wolf recoiled in instinctive alarm. Then why come? Drake demanded. To stop her. If I wished to stop her, the primordial answered, your kingdom would already be dust. Silence fell heavy. Lyra steadied her voice. So why are you here? The ruins faded. The courtyard reformed around them. The primordial's wings unfurled, catching moonlight like a cosmos stretching across the night. I am here, he said, to test your heart. Lyra blinked. My heart. The source of your choice. He stepped closer. The ground trembled beneath each footfall. Tell me, Eclipse Queen, will you save this world or remake it? Lyra inhaled slowly, feeling every eye upon her. Why must I choose? She asked. He glanced around at the wolves, the shattered palace, the trembling moon. Because healing demands rebuilding, and rebuilding demands sacrifice. Drake bristled. Sacrifice of what? That, the primordial said, depends on her answer. Lyra lowered her gaze briefly. For a heartbeat, she felt the threads. Hundreds of thousands of threads spiraling through the kingdom and beyond. Living connections of fate and future. Her power tugged at them, weaving, aligning, responding to her emotions. The kingdom was fragile. The clans were newly united. The shadows had barely dispersed. And yet, there was a deeper instability beneath the land. A fracture. A wound. She had felt it since tearing through Kale's void. "What is breaking?" she whispered. The primordial's expression darkened. "The barrier," he said. "The one that separates this realm from the other worlds." Lyra's pulse froze. Kale pierced it. The primordial continued. "Your power widened it." And now, he looked up, gaze piercing the clouds. "Other beings are watching." Drake's hand tightened around her wrist. "What beings?" "The ones older than wolves," he murmured. "Older than light and shadow." Lyra swallowed hard. "What do they want?" "To decide," the primordial said grimly, "if your world is worth existing." Cold swept her bones. "And they will act," he added, "based on your choice." Lyra's breath came uneven. So this was the cost. This was the weight. If she chose to save the world, she would have to fight to defend it. If she chose to remake it, she might have to destroy and rebuild everything from the ashes. Both paths were steep. Both were merciless. Drake stepped in front of her, no longer caring about respect or hierarchy. She won't choose until she knows what she's choosing between. The primordial studied him for a long, silent moment. "You love her." Drake didn't flinch. "Yes. You would die for her." "I already have," he said quietly. "She brought me back." A faint smirk tugged at the primordial's mouth. "And you would kill for her." Drake's wolf gleamed in his eyes. "Try touching her and see." The courtyard held its breath again, waiting for violence. But the primordial only nodded once. "Good." Lyra blinked. "Good. Yes. A heart without a tether is more dangerous than any darkness." His gaze slid to her. "Your mate keeps you anchored. Balanced. Mortal. That is his purpose." "Mortal," Drake hissed. "She is not. She is becoming something beyond mortality." The primordial cut in. Lyra flinched. Drake turned toward her instantly. "Lyra." But she knew it already. She had felt it. In the void. In the hall. In the threads. Her body no longer tired. Her wounds healed instantly. Her heart beat with two rhythms, light and shadow. The eclipse core was changing her. "I don't want to lose myself," she whispered. The primordial looked at her with surprising gentleness. "Then choose the path that keeps your heart intact." Lyra's mouth parted. "Which path is that?" A slow smile curved his lips. "That," he said, "is what your test will reveal." The sky split again, this time not with threat, but invitation. A gateway formed above the courtyard, swirling with silver-black energy. Stars bled into its edges, forming an archway between worlds. Lyra felt her pulse respond instantly. Drake growled low. "She isn't going anywhere alone." The primordial's wings folded behind him. "She will not face the test alone. Your bond thread ensures that." Relief flared in Drake's chest, followed immediately by suspicion. "What does that mean?" "It means," the primordial said, "that only those tied to her fate may cross." Lyra's eyes widened. "The children." "Yes," he said. "The hybrids are woven into your destiny. Their lives changed because of your awakening." "And the enforcer?" Lyra asked. A nod. "He carries your mercy in his rebuilt soul." "And Kale's shadow wolves." "They are yours, Eclipse Queen," he said. "Followers, not foes." "And the kingdom?" A pause. The primordial's expression darkened. "The kingdom must remain. Their fate depends on your return." Lyra inhaled sharply. "Return from where?" He extended a hand toward the celestial gateway. "From the realm of echoes." Drake stiffened. "No one survives that place. It's a myth." "It was," the primordial said. "Until now." The wind picked up, swirling around Lyra's feet. Threads glimmered in the air, silver, black, gold, pulling her toward the gate. Drake grabbed her arm. "Lyra, if we go in, will we come back?" The primordial did not answer. Lyra's heart hammered, but when she looked at Drake, the fear didn't break her. It sharpened her. "Whatever happens," she whispered, "we face it together." He closed his eyes briefly, forehead brushing hers. "Always." The primordial's voice echoed like thunder, softening into prophecy. "Then step forward, Eclipse Queen. Your choice begins now." Lyra exhaled. She took Drake's hand. Together, they moved toward the gateway, light and shadow spiraling in their wake. The hybrids followed behind them, hesitant but brave. The enforcer limped forward, armor cracking with every step. The shadow wolves slunk along the edges, silent protectors. The world held its breath. Lyra paused at the threshold. The primordial watched her with ancient expectation. "Last question," Lyra said quietly. He arched a brow. "Yes." "What happens if I fail?" The courtyard stilled. The wind halted. Even the threads stopped dancing. The primordial's answer came like a whisper carried by a dying star. "Then your world ends." Lyra's fingers tightened around Drake's. Then she stepped through the gateway, and the world vanished. The primordial's question hung in the air like a blade suspended over the world. "Will you save this world, or remake it?" Lyra felt every gaze in the courtyard lock onto her. Hundreds of wolves, royal, warrior, shadowborn, hybrid, held their breath, terrified that the wrong answer might trigger the end of everything they knew. Even the air seemed afraid to move. Drake stood at her back, a wall of fire and devotion. His heartbeat thundered against her spine, steadying her, anchoring her. Save the world, or tear it apart to build something new. A younger Lyra, the girl locked beneath the ceremony hall, the girl who was hidden because she was dangerous, unpredictable, an embarrassment, would have said yes to destruction, would have burned kingdoms, would have welcomed the taste of vengeance on her tongue. But she wasn't that girl anymore. Her magic hummed at her fingertips like a restless storm. The threads of fate vibrated around her, responding to every breath she took, every thought, every flicker of doubt. She swallowed. "What happens if I choose to remake it?" she asked quietly. The primordial shifted. No, the stars on his skin shifted, rearranging into new constellations. The ground trembled under his presence. "Then I will tear down the veil," he rumbled. "The world will return to what it once was, raw, wild, ruled by power instead of laws. Only the strong will survive." Murmurs rippled through the courtyard. Drake bristled. "That would destroy millions." The primordial didn't even look at him. "And if I choose to save it?" Lyra pressed. His wings folded, shadowing the courtyard in darkness and starlight. "Then you will bind your awakening. Temper it. Become protector instead of judge." Her chest tightened. "And if I refuse both?" "Then the world fractures," he said simply, "as all indecisive creations do." Lyra closed her eyes. The threads buzzed, pulling, twisting, begging for direction. She saw flashes. The ceremony hall where she'd been hidden. The darkness she'd lived beneath. The wars this kingdom had already survived. The children in the palace who laughed in the hallways. The refugees from fallen clans who now lived in Blackridge under Drake's new policies. The women who once hid their wolves now walking with heads high. She tasted their hope and their fear. Her power crackled, the silver-white glow spreading across her skin. When she opened her eyes again, they were glowing like small moons. "I won't destroy the world," she said softly. "But I won't preserve the broken version of it either." A gasp rippled through the crowd. The primordial's head tilted. "I choose a third path," Lyra continued. "Not destruction, not preservation. Transformation." The courtyard went silent. Even the wind stopped moving. The primordial stared at her for a long, heavy moment. "And what is your third path, Eclipse Queen?" Lyra lifted her hand. The threads of fate spiraled upward, shimmering like silver fireflies. They twisted into patterns, breaking old knots and creating new ones before they fell back into place. "I will heal what can be healed," she said. "Reshape what must be reshaped. Protect those who need protection, and destroy only what threatens to devour the world." Her voice strengthened with every word. "I will be balance." A soft growl of approval came from Drake. He stepped closer, resting his hand on her back, grounding her without overshadowing her. The primordial regarded her with an intensity that made the air vibrate. "For thousands of years," he said slowly, Every eclipse blooded before you has chosen either destruction or purity. Never balance. Lyra's heart thudded. Then they weren't me. Something like amusement rippled across his features. Ancient, dangerous, and oddly proud. But balance demands sacrifice, he warned. Lyra didn't flinch. I know. Do you? His eyes narrowed. To hold the world together, you must bind part of your power. Your full awakening would tear the veil, and the creatures beyond it would devour your people. Her blood chilled. Drake stepped in front of her. She only just took control of it. You want her to bind it already. It is not a question of want. The primordial thundered. It is necessity. Her awakened power is too vast. Without a binding, she will slowly unravel the world every time she breathes. Lyra stiffened. She felt that truth settle heavy in her bones. She had sensed it, the world shifting around her, bending, bending, bending. What kind of binding, she asked. A living tether, he said. Someone strong enough to anchor you. Someone who carries your mark naturally. Drake's breath hitched. Me. Lyra turned sharply toward him. Drake, I'm not letting anyone else anchor you. You don't even know what it means. He cupped her face. His thumb brushed her cheek in a slow, reverent stroke. I don't need to know. I will always choose you. The primordial watched them with unreadable eyes. A mate bond cannot serve as the tether, he said. It is too emotional, too easily corrupted. The tether must be forged by choice, not destiny. Drake's jaw clenched. Then choose me anyway. The primordial lifted a hand. A circle of starlight flared around Drake. Testing him, measuring him, judging him. Drake didn't move. His wolf rose under his skin, blazing gold. He held the primordial's gaze with absolute defiance. She is my queen, Drake said quietly. Anchor or not, I will stand between her and anyone who wants to tear her apart, including you. A low growl rumbled through the courtyard. Startled wolves afraid he'd overstepped. But the primordial smiled. A king who would defy a god, he murmured. Very well. He lowered his hand. The anchoring will require a ritual. Dangerous. Binding. Eternal. Lyra swallowed hard. For me, or for him? For both, the primordial said. If he falters, you fall. If you collapse, he is erased. Drake didn't hesitate. When do we begin? Lyra grabbed his arm. Wait, Drake, if something happens to you. He turned to her. Lyra, I am already yours. If your power destroys the world, I die anyway. His voice roughened. At least this way, I die protecting you. Her chest cracked open. Tears burned her eyes. She pressed her forehead to his, gripping his shoulders as if anchoring him instead. You're not dying, she whispered fiercely. We'll survive it. Both of us. He brushed his lips against hers. Then trust me. She exhaled shakily. The primordial spread his wings, starlight swirling around them like a cosmic storm. Prepare yourselves, he commanded. The ritual begins at moonrise. The wind roared to life. The veil above them shimmered. The threads around Lyra snapped taut. And deep beneath everything, something old and hungry stirred. The primordial's voice echoed like thunder across the kingdom. The balance ritual begins at moonrise. And the fate of this world hangs on their bond.